The mirror that showed his future death. Part 1. The mirror didn't just reflect reality. It showed something else. Something that hadn't happened yet. And the worst part, every time Daniel looked into it, he saw himself die. Welcome to Dark Chronicles. Tonight's story is about a man who bought an old mirror. A mirror that didn't show the present. It showed the future. A future he was never supposed to see. Daniel Harper was not the kind of man who believed in strange things. He believed in systems, in code, in logic that could be tested and proven. That's why the mirror didn't make sense. He found it on a rainy evening, tucked away in a forgotten antique shop on the edge of town. The kind of place that looked like it hadn't changed in decades. The wooden sign outside creaked in the wind. Elders' relics. Daniel almost didn't go in. But something pulled him. A quiet curiosity. A feeling he couldn't explain. Inside, the shop smelled old. Dust, wood, time. Shelves were packed with objects that seemed to belong to another life. Broken clocks, rusty lanterns, faded photographs. And then, he saw the mirror. It stood in the far corner. Tall, almost as tall as him. Framed in dark wood carved with patterns that didn't look decorative. They looked intentional, like symbols. Daniel stepped closer. Something felt off immediately. The reflection wasn't wrong, but it wasn't right either. It moved, just a fraction too late. He lifted his hand. The reflection followed, but delayed. A blink behind reality. Daniel frowned. Probably just the glass, he muttered. Old mirrors warped reflections all the time. Still, he couldn't stop looking. The longer he stared, the more it felt like the mirror was staring back. Strange piece, isn't it? The voice came from behind him. Daniel turned quickly. The shop owner stood there. An old man, thin, eyes too sharp for his age. How much? Daniel asked. The old man didn't answer immediately. He looked at the mirror. Then back at Daniel. That one has been returned before. Daniel smirked. Why? A pause. Then, people don't like what they see. Daniel laughed softly. I think I'll take my chances. That night, the mirror stood in Daniel's bedroom, directly across from his bed. He didn't think much of it at first. He went to sleep like any other night. Tired, calm, unaware. Until 2:17 a.m. His eyes opened. No sound, no reason, just awake. The room was dark, only a faint glow from the streetlight outside. Daniel turned his head and looked at the mirror. At first, everything was normal. His reflection, his room, still, silent. Then, something changed. Daniel's breath caught, because in the mirror, his reflection was already awake. Its eyes were open, staring directly at him. Daniel froze. His body refused to move. The reflection didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't react. It just watched him. And then, it smiled. A slow, unnatural smile. Daniel sat up instantly. The reflection snapped into sync. Everything normal again. No smile, no delay, just him. But his heart was racing. This is nothing, he whispered. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. The next morning, Daniel tried to ignore it. Work helped. Emails, meetings, code, logic, everything that made sense. But the mirror stayed in his mind. That moment, those eyes, that smile. When he returned home that evening, the house felt different. Quiet, too quiet. Daniel walked into his bedroom and looked at the mirror. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the reflection flickered, like a glitch, and suddenly, the room inside the mirror changed. Dark, broken, destroyed, walls cracked, furniture overturned, and Daniel wasn't standing anymore. He was on his knees, covered in blood. Daniel stepped back in shock, but the reflection didn't follow. It stayed there, frozen in that moment, and then, slowly, his reflection lifted its head and looked directly at him. Its face pale, eyes filled with terror, and behind it, something moved. A shadow, tall, unnatural, standing just inches away. Daniel's throat went dry. He turned around. Nothing there. Empty room. Silent. But in the mirror, that thing was still there. Watching. Waiting. And then, it raised its hand and pointed at him. Daniel didn't move. He couldn't, because something inside him understood the truth. The mirror wasn't broken. It wasn't delayed. It wasn't malfunctioning. It was showing something else. Something real. something that hadn't happened yet, and whatever was standing behind him in that reflection was not part of his imagination. It was part of his future. Daniel stepped back slowly, his eyes locked on the mirror, his breathing shallow, his mind racing, and for the first time in his life, logic failed him, because there was no explanation, no reason, no system that could explain what he had just seen. Only one terrifying thought remained. What if the mirror was telling the truth? Daniel didn't remember stepping away from the mirror. One moment he was standing there, and the next, he was at the bedroom door, his back pressed against it, breathing heavily, his eyes still locked on the reflection. It had returned to normal. The room inside the mirror looked exactly like his real room again. Nothing broken, nothing dark, no creature, no blood, just him. But something had changed. He could feel it. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the room itself was holding its breath. Daniel swallowed. Slowly, he stepped forward again. One step, then another. Every instinct in his body told him to stop, to walk away, to leave the mirror alone. But curiosity pulled him closer. Stronger than fear, stronger than logic. He stood in front of it again. The reflection stared back, perfectly synced. Daniel raised his hand. The reflection followed instantly. No delay, no glitch, nothing strange. He leaned closer, his face inches from the glass, his own eyes staring back at him. Searching, looking for something wrong, something out of place. And then, he blinked. Once. Slow. But the reflection didn't. Its eyes stayed open, unblinking, watching him. Daniel's breath caught. A cold wave rushed through his body. No, he whispered. The reflection tilted its head. A small movement, but Daniel hadn't moved. Not at all. The reflection leaned closer, closer than the real Daniel, its face almost pressing against the inside of the glass. And then, it spoke, without moving its lips. Don't look away. Daniel stumbled backward, his heart slammed against his chest. The reflection snapped back into place. Perfect again, mimicking him exactly, like nothing had happened. Daniel shook his head violently. This isn't real, but his voice trembled, because he knew it was. He grabbed his phone. His hands were shaking as he opened the camera app. He pointed it at the mirror. If it's real, it'll show on camera, he muttered. He hit record. Then slowly, he stepped back in front of the mirror. Nothing happened at first, just him, standing there. Then, the reflection flickered again, for a split second, like a broken signal, and then it changed. The room darkened, shadows stretched unnaturally, and Daniel wasn't standing anymore. He was kneeling, exactly like before, blood covering his hands, dripping onto the floor. His reflection looked terrified, shaking, crying, mouthing something Daniel couldn't hear. And behind him, that thing, clearer now, taller than before, its body thin and unnatural, its arms hanging too low, its fingers brushing the floor, and its face, still hidden, but closer, much closer. The creature leaned forward, right next to Daniel's reflection. And then, it whispered something. Daniel couldn't hear the sound, but his reflection reacted instantly. Its eyes widened, its mouth opened, screaming, begging, crying, and then, the creature turned, slowly, and looked directly at the real Daniel. Through the mirror, their eyes met, and this time, Daniel felt it, not just saw it, felt it, like something was looking inside him, through him, into something deeper, something it recognized. Daniel dropped the phone. The reflection snapped back, everything normal again. The room returned, the mirror silent, still, like nothing had ever happened. For a long moment, Daniel didn't move. Then slowly, he bent down, picked up his phone, his fingers trembling. He stopped the recording, and pressed play. The video began, normal at first, him standing, the mirror reflecting, then, the flicker, the change, the future. It was all there, clear, undeniable, real. Daniel watched himself die, watched that creature stand behind him, watched it turn and look at him. Through the mirror, through the screen, through time. He dropped the phone again. This time harder. It hit the floor with a sharp crack. But Daniel didn't care, because now, there was no doubt, no explanation, no denial. The mirror was real, and it was showing him something that hadn't happened yet. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He sat in the living room. Lights on, TV playing, sound filling the silence, trying to distract himself. But it didn't work, because every few seconds, he thought about it, the reflection, the creature, that moment when it looked at him. Like it knew him, like it had always known him. At 3:12 a.m., the power went out. Instantly, everything went dark. The TV shut off. The lights died. Silence filled the house. Daniel froze. Then, a sound, soft, faint, from the bedroom. A tapping noise, slow, deliberate. Daniel's breathing stopped, because he knew exactly what it was. The mirror. He stood slowly. Every step toward the hallway felt wrong. Like walking toward something waiting for him. The tapping continued, soft, steady, calling him. Daniel reached the bedroom door. His hand hovered over the handle. For a moment, he almost turned back, but something inside him refused. He opened the door. The room was dark, silent, the mirror barely visible in the shadows. And then, the tapping stopped. Daniel stepped inside. The air felt colder. He walked toward the mirror. Slowly, carefully, his reflection barely visible, just a faint outline. Then, a whisper. From the mirror, "Come closer." Daniel's body froze. The voice was low, broken, not human, but familiar. Too familiar. And without thinking, without control, Daniel took one step forward. Daniel didn't remember deciding to move. But he did. One step closer. Then another. The whisper from the mirror faded. But something else replaced it. A feeling. A pull. Like gravity had changed direction. And it was dragging him forward. His reflection became clearer as he approached. At first, everything looked normal. Dim light. Still room. His own silhouette staring back. Then, the delay returned. Subtle. Barely noticeable. But it was there. Daniel raised his hand slowly. His real hand moved first. The reflection followed a split second later. That was enough. His breath caught. His heart started racing again. The mirror wasn't stable. It wasn't consistent. It was changing. Daniel leaned closer. His face now only inches from the glass. And then, the reflection didn't follow. It stayed still. Completely still. Its eyes locked onto his. Unblinking. Daniel froze. "I'm not moving," he whispered. But the reflection didn't care. It tilted its head, slowly, deliberately, like it was studying him. And then, it smiled again. That same unnatural smile. Wide, wrong, too perfect. Daniel stumbled back. But this time, the reflection didn't return to normal. It stayed like that, standing still, smiling, watching him, for several seconds. Then, it blinked. Once. Slow. And suddenly, everything snapped back. Perfect sync. Perfect reflection. Like nothing had happened. But Daniel knew better now. The mirror wasn't just showing the future. It was interacting. The air in the room grew colder. Daniel could feel it. A sharp drop in temperature. His breath became visible. Faint clouds forming in front of his face. "That's not possible," he whispered. But logic had already left him. The mirror dimmed slightly. Not the room. Just the mirror. Like the light inside it was fading. And then, the reflection changed again. This time faster. More aggressive. The room inside the mirror twisted. Walls bending. Shadows stretching unnaturally. And Daniel was back on his knees. Bleeding. Just like before. But this time, it was closer. Much closer. The creature stood directly behind him. No distance. No space. Its long fingers hovered just above his shoulders. Daniel's reflection was shaking violently. Crying. Trying to move. But unable to. Like something was holding him there. The creature leaned forward. Its head lowering slowly. And for the first time, Daniel saw its face. Not clearly. Not fully. But enough. Its skin looked stretched. Like it didn't belong on its body. Its mouth. Too wide. Too thin. And its eyes. Completely black. Empty. Endless. Daniel felt something inside his chest tighten. Like his heart had skipped a beat. Then another. Then another. The creature's face moved closer to his reflection's ear. And this time, Daniel heard it. Not through the mirror. Not through sound. But inside his head. A whisper. Clear. Cold. "You saw too much." Daniel gasped. His body locked in place. His mind screamed to move. To run. To look away. But he couldn't. The reflection screamed silently, its mouth open wide, tears streaming down its face. And then, the creature slowly raised its hand. Long fingers stretching outward, reaching toward Daniel's reflection, but not stopping there. It kept moving, closer, closer, toward the surface of the mirror. Daniel's eyes widened. "No," he whispered. The fingers touched the glass. And then, they didn't stop. They pushed through, just slightly, like the surface of the mirror wasn't solid anymore. Like it was liquid. Daniel stumbled backward, falling onto the floor, his breath gone, his chest tight. The reflection froze. The creature stopped moving, its fingers still halfway through the mirror. And then, everything snapped back, instantly. The mirror returned to normal. The room silent again, still, empty. No creature, no blood, no distortion. Just Daniel, lying on the floor, shaking. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Daniel didn't know. Time felt broken, unreal. Eventually, he forced himself to stand. His legs weak, his hands trembling. He looked at the mirror again. Carefully, cautiously. Nothing. Just his reflection. Perfect, normal, like it had always been. But something had changed. He could feel it, the distance between him and the mirror. It wasn't just physical anymore. It was thinner, weaker, like something had opened, and wasn't fully closed. Daniel backed away slowly. He needed to think, needed to understand, needed to figure out what this thing was. Because one thing was clear now. The mirror wasn't just showing his death. It was connected to it. And whatever that creature was, it wasn't trapped inside. It was trying to get out. As Daniel turned toward the door, he heard it again. That whisper. But this time, it wasn't coming from the mirror. It was coming from behind him. Inside the room. Close. Too close. "Don't leave." Daniel froze. His body refused to turn. Because deep down, he already knew. If he looked behind him now, the mirror wouldn't be the only place he saw that thing. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway. The whisper still echoed in his ears. "Don't leave." It hadn't come from the mirror. He was sure of it now. It had come from inside the room. Behind him. Closer than it should have been. Daniel's fingers tightened around the edge of the door. Every instinct screamed at him to run. To get out of the house. To never look back. But something stronger held him there. Fear, mixed with something else. Curiosity. The kind that makes people open doors they shouldn't. The kind that gets people killed. Slowly, Daniel turned. Just enough to look over his shoulder. The room looked normal. Dark. Still. Empty. The mirror stood exactly where it always had. Silent. Unmoving. For a moment, nothing happened. Daniel exhaled slowly. "See, nothing," he whispered. But the words felt hollow. Because deep inside, he knew it wasn't over. He turned fully this time, facing the room again. And that's when he saw it. The mirror wasn't reflecting him. Daniel froze, his body still in the doorway. But in the mirror, there was no one standing there. Just the room, empty, like he didn't exist. Daniel's breath caught. That's not possible. He stepped forward slowly, one step into the room. And suddenly, his reflection appeared again. Perfect, normal, exactly where it should be. Daniel's heart pounded harder. He stepped back, out of the room, and once again, the reflection vanished. Gone. Like he was invisible. Daniel felt a cold wave run through his body. The mirror wasn't just showing something wrong. It was reacting to where he stood. To his position. To him. He stepped inside again. Slowly. Carefully. The reflection returned. But something was different now. It wasn't perfectly synced anymore. A delay. Small. But noticeable. His reflection blinked half a second late. Turned slightly after him. Like it was catching up. Daniel whispered, "You're not me." The reflection smiled. That same slow, unnatural smile. Daniel didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. The reflection's smile widened. Too wide. Too stretched. Its face began to change. Subtly at first. Then more clearly. The eyes darkened. The skin paled. The expression twisted. Daniel stepped back. But the reflection didn't follow. It stayed there, standing still, watching him. Then, it raised its hand, and pressed it against the inside of the glass. Daniel's chest tightened, because this time, he knew what would happen next. "No," he whispered. The reflection pushed harder. and the surface of the mirror moved, not cracked, not broken, moved, like liquid, like something soft, something that could be crossed. Daniel turned to run, but before he could take a step, the lights flickered, the entire room plunged into darkness. For 1 second, 2 seconds, 3, then the lights came back on, and Daniel was no longer alone. The mirror stood behind him, silent, still, but the thing that had been inside it was now in the room, standing between him and the door. Daniel's breath stopped. The creature was taller than he expected, its body thin, unnatural, its arms hanging too low, its fingers almost touching the floor, and its face, now fully visible, its skin stretched tightly across its skull, its mouth too wide, its eyes completely black, empty, endless. It tilted its head, exactly the way Daniel had seen in the reflection. "You opened it," it said. The voice was wrong, like it was made of broken pieces of sound. Daniel couldn't speak, couldn't move. The creature took one step forward, its movement slow, deliberate. "You saw," it continued. Daniel shook his head weakly. "No, I didn't. The creature stopped, just a few feet away now. And then, it smiled. That same horrifying smile. "You saw everything." Daniel's legs gave out. He fell backward onto the floor. The creature crouched slightly, leaning closer.